Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. Today, I'm going to be talking about this is for victims of Hurricane Milton and dealing with FPL, Florida and Power Line. Yeah, I'm sure you have negative experiences. Let's be nice to just say negative experiences when it comes to dealing with them. Personally, I can tell you that I'm going to talk about a couple of cases that I had with them and also talk about my personal experiences because it could be an issue for you. When Hurricane Wilma I dealt with that, and that was 28 days without power. When I got power, guess what? I still had the same electric bill that I had for 2 days, somehow equaled 30 days of power. Do the math. You don't have to be good at math. I'm not. Somehow that doesn't add up. Call FP&L, let them know, and they say, it is what it is. That's what you owe. I'm like, how could I owe the same when I haven't had electricity in 28 days? Well, a lot of fighting. Finally, they got that done. And there seemed to be retribution where they were also complaining that I had not been making payments. Now, this goes back to a time that when on our cell phone, I could not just do a transfer because that didn't exist. You had to physically do it online. I couldn't do it because I had no power. So, no power, there was no mobile hotspot back then. So, their answer was, well, why don't you just go to the bank and transfer money to your checking account because I was overdrawn, but I had no creditor actually cared, not any credit card company, the mortgage, everybody was cool. Everybody was understanding what I was dealing with. They said, just go to the bank. I said, that takes gas. And they're like, so? I go, I waited 4 hours in line just to get gas the other day to be limited to something ridiculous like 5 gallons because that's all they were willing to give for everybody in line. I was there at 4 in the morning. I thought I was a genius. I was going to be the only one in line. And it took me 4 hours to get to the front of the line. So think about how many people were ahead of me. Now, of course, the answer is you could just go to the bank and get the money. There's no electricity. It's not like you could just go to the ATM and say, give me a couple $100 and let me drive over and go pay this FP&L bill. So you had to wait in line in hours and hours in line just to get your money to. It's 110 degrees inside the building. Back then it was WAMU, Washington Mutual. So they gave me a hard time about that I had to go pay a check cashing store. And it was a hard time all around. But it goes back to how can I be charged the same exact thing that I've been charged on average if I didn't have power? Now, to be clear, FPL does have this thing that they call average monthly billing, whatever. The idea is to avoid any surprises. So, for example, if your average electric bill is $200 in the summer and then 100 in the winter, you get the average of that 300. That's 150. So, to give you some sort of consistency, they say you'll just pay $150 every month. If you have that, um, probably now is a good time to get rid of it, at least for now, because the problem is you might go a month without power and you're still going to be stuck paying that $150. And so their answer is going to be you're doing the monthly billing average thing. So that's what it comes out to. So do consider getting rid of that and definitely look at your electric bill when you get it from FPL because these things happen. When I moved out of Miami and I was living in Jacksonville, actually the county adjoining it, they had their own electrical system, and you have no idea. One of the first things I told my wife was, I don't have to deal with FPL anymore because it was always an issue with them, especially dealing with hurricanes and this billing. Even when I was there, when my dad got sick, I had to move into my parents' house to take care of him, and he passed away. So there was some sort of issue again with the billing and all that. To the point that I could tell you when my mom moved out of the house, we were trying to get the deposit, a deposit that we put down approximately 50 years ago. That deposit should be accumulating interest for 50 years. Do you think they had records or any? I don't know how much my dad would have given down as a deposit almost 50 years ago. But I'm sure with interest, it adds up to something, right? I don't even care if it's $200. It would be my $200 or my mom's $200. And the answer was good luck. They had no information, no luck, couldn't resolve anything. So I have nothing positive to say about them because it's always been a negative experience. Even when I lost power for 30 days, they kept giving me all these excuses that they needed a crane to go over my house. And then they said, your neighbor lives on a canal, so you had to get a barge to go through there. We're like, what are you talking about? When they finally came to the area, because bottom line is they dropped the ball. We were just one small area, Miami Lakes, that didn't have power. The guy basically climbed up the pole and in 2 seconds did the connection to the transformer, and we were done. By the way, another neighbor was an electrical engineer, and he was telling him, trust me, there's nothing wrong with transformers. You just have to run the cables and we have power. It took him 28 days to do that. So that's the first issue. Make sure you look at your electric bill. If you have that average billing thing, whatever they call it these days, consider this is worth it if you're not going to have power for 2 or 3 weeks, because you're going to get hit with an electric bill and you haven't had power. So if they haven't updated those policies, now's a good time to call FPL and confirm, just to protect yourself. You don't want to pay for a bill when you haven't been able to use a service to begin with. And even if you don't have that average billing thing, just look at the bill anyway. Try to get the dates, try to average out how much you use during the first part of the month, and try to average it out to make sure that there's not an extra, couple $100 thrown in there, because FPL isn't cheap. I mean, I was paying hundreds of dollars 20 years ago. So it's obviously it's a very expensive service that they have. So do look into that. Now, the next issue I'm going to do has nothing to do with hurricanes, but it does have to do with two different clients. Now, two clients that don't know each other came to me with the same issue. I'm one guy and a lawyer of how many hundreds of lawyers are in bankruptcy in Miami. Client came to me with a $75,000 electric bill. The other one came to me with a $50,000 electric bill. How do you go from $300 to 75,000? Obviously, there's a problem. Now let's backtrack. Don't pay your bill this month on time. You're gonna start getting text messages, phone calls, hey, reminding you, emails. And if you don't pay after whatever time, 5 days, they shut it off like that, right? Now let's suppose your power goes out. You think their computers and all that would know that? Right? Of course they would, right? So how does your bill go from $300 to 75,000, and the computers aren't blowing up saying we got a potential problem here? I think they would know that. The problem is I had two clients who had neighbors where they were renting, and the neighbors were growing. It was a grow house, a marijuana grow house, which they were running to hydroponics and everything else. You can't do that with generators, because the neighbors will call the cops and say, this guy's running 10 generators. What's going on? So if you need electricity, what do? You can't do that yourself, right? You're asking for trouble. So you tap into your neighbor's electricity. Now, anybody who's out there, an engineer, electrical engineer, can explain this to me how that's done. But it was done to two of my clients. They tap into their electricity, and of course, 30 days later, they're gone. They broke the lease. Who cares, right? That wasn't the point. They weren't going to be there 12 months. They just need to be there 30 months to grow their marijuana and their weed. Problem is, FP&L didn't care. So I had to file two bankruptcies for two separate clients who didn't know each other. So what are the odds this happens to other people? So somehow I recommend you get some sort of alert, something that warns you of your electricity if that's possible, or just log in every couple of weeks just to make sure nothing happens. I know it's an overabundance of caution, but remember what my deal is. I'm an expert in bankruptcy, and I can't imagine that I've had to file bankruptcy for two people because of that. I find it offensive, to be honest, but that's what's happened, and these issues do occur. I will tell you how brutal they are. I only handled, I didn't really handle probate. I'm not a probate attorney, but I had a client who had a probate case. And I can tell you that of all the claims not filed by creditors, my client was receiving a home. Guess who filed a claim to get their $80 electrical bill paid? FP&L. So FP&L actually spent money on lawyers to collect $80. So that has been my experience with them. And I say this to be careful, because we just went through, or you just went through Hurricane Milton. And I've been through hurricanes, and I've always dealt with these issues of the power. When my mom, I was living there, like I said, in her home to help out with my dad. It was the same thing. It's like, I don't understand how we have an electricity bill that seems to be the same bill we have every month, without that average billing thing that they do. So, needless to say, I don't trust them. So I'm passing that mistrust over to you. So I just want you to look into it, be careful, and make sure you do go over your electric bill. On the flip side of that, do remember, if you have other creditors, I don't care if it's a cell phone, not creditors, but bills, cell phones and things like that, do call them to try to get a credit. They are offering credits. I got one recently. It wasn't much, but every little bit hurts when we're facing these difficult times. So do take the time to call these people, whoever it is, your cell phone or whatever internet provider. I did write a blog post about the acts of God. I'll post that in this video too. The issues that I had trying to terminate my lease, but that's something you should know. Acts of God is a situation where it might be able to prevent terminate a lease like I was dealing with, or just other issues when it comes to delaying payments to certain creditors. All right. So like always, if you have any questions, please reach out. Excuse me, I still have the dry cough from COVID. Please reach out to me, post a comment in the section below. I'll be more than happy to respond. I'll help out any way that I can. In the meantime, those of you in Florida, this was brutal. I read there was, I think, 18 tornadoes at one given time, which I was wondering, how do we have tornadoes in Broward, Clewiston, Palm Beach? What was the other area? I forgot what other area was having. I was like, they're so far apart, and all these tornadoes it's unheard of, but there was 18 at one given point. So hang in there. I am going to do another video regarding insurance companies. So stick around for that. I'm going to hope to do it today. I've been doing seminars all today, but why not continue with the videos? All right. Take care, everyone. Reach out, post in the comment section below if you have any comments. Bye-bye.